Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Am I audible?
Yes. Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I want to introduce our translator and reciters.
Okay.
Can I introduce?
Go ahead, Madhu.
Today's shloka reciter was Shweta Mataji. She was introduced earlier. Translator was Khwaish Pawa. Khwaish Mataji lives in Vadodara, Gujarat. She has completed her master's in economics and is doing a job now. Mataji serves as a translator and co-host. Her hobbies are reading and writing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shweta Mataji and Khwaish Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. So my name is Abhilash and I'm substituting for Srivasangan Kirtan Das Prabhuji. So I'll be taking the 13th chapter. We are starting with the first chapter of the karma part of the Bhagavad Gita. As we know, Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 parts. The first 6 chapters deals with the karma yoga part. The later second part, 6 chapters, deals with the bhakti yoga, and the third latter part deals with the jnana yoga. So I'll be beginning with the screen share. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Yes. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। नमो ब्रह्मण्य देवाय गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So the karma, the jnana yoga part of the Bhagavad Gita starts with the chapter of kshetra kshetrajna vibhaga. That is the kshetra and the kshetrajna division yoga. Kindly unmute those. It's moving on. So we have looked at the bhakti part, that the bhakti is a culmination. Actually, the karma yoga leads to jnana yoga, and the jnana yoga should lead to the bhakti yoga, isn't it? But then why has Krishna, can the co-host please mute everyone for the time being? You can post your questions in the chat, on the chat box. I'll be open to the questions at the latter end of the session. Thank you. So actually, logically speaking, the karma yoga leads to the jnana yoga, and the jnana yoga leads to the bhakti yoga, ultimate surrender to the Lord. But then why has Krishna explained or put the bhakti yoga part in between the chapters of the karma yoga and jnana yoga? So for an example's sake, there is a sandwich. So the upper part consists of the bread loaf and the lower part consists of the bread loaf, right? So in between is the crux of the matter. So similarly, Krishna very intelligently has put the main crux of Bhagavad Gita in the chapters in between. Therefore, Krishna is also conveying that the Bhakti Yoga is essential, and that is the main message of Bhagavad Gita. So we see Bhakti Yoga is a culmination, then why Jnana Yoga is presented in the 6 chapters. So we achieve bhakti through the cultivation of knowledge, and in the last it describes how to achieve this bhakti analytically. Therefore, to those who have an analytical mind, bent of mind, will find these 6 chapters very interesting, because any philosopher or scientist, he will be looking at the information given in the Bhagavad Gita very analytically, very logically, as to what this universe is made of, what are the elements this universe consists of, and what is the relationship between the jiva and the matter, and the relationship between the matter, jiva, and Bhagavan, the Ishvara, the supreme controller. So this is very analytical, and this needs some quite a bit of attention. So I request you kindly pay attention to the details. So the 12th chapter explains how he personally delivers the devotees from the clutches of the birth and death. So this confidential knowledge, Krishna has put it in between the chapters 7 to 12. So the last chapter provides philosophical understanding, analytical understanding of where one stands in the material world and how one should view oneself in the material world. So the jnana, knowledge only can help us detach ourselves from the clutches of Maya, understanding our position with respect to Krishna and understanding our position with respect to the material energies, and to use the knowledge as a ways and means to achieve devotion, that is bhakti. So this chapter consists of main 6 pillars. So Arjuna inquires Krishna about the 6 basic pillars of jnana. He inquires about Prakriti, the material nature, about the Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field of activities, that is our body, Kshetrajna, the knower of this body, one who dwells inside the body, and the supreme knower, Krishna, who is dwelling inside everyone's body, and he is also the knower. So there are 2 Kshetrajnas. 5th one is Jnanam. What is knowledge? How do you define knowledge? And how does it terminate? As in, if knowledge is a means to achieve bhakti, then at what stage does the jnana, the pursuit of knowledge, terminates, and then the real surrender begins? So what is the jnayam? Jnayam is what is the end result of the goal of knowledge. So Prakriti is actually the material nature. So we see a lot of variegatedness in the universe. There are 84 lakhs kinds of species, and there are so many kinds of fruits and vegetables, and so many varieties we see in the nature. So that is because the creative feminine energy, Prakriti, is a creative energy. So it is providing the enjoyer. Who is the enjoyer? The Purusha. The Purusha here is referred to as a Jiva. Jiva is also a Purusha, and the Adi Purusha is Krishna himself. Since we are part and parcel of Krishna, we are all tiny Purushas trying to enjoy the material world. Since we are there in the material world, conditioned material world, in the being controlled by the material modes of nature, and surrounded by 24 elements of universe, that will be discussed later. What are the 24 elements? So we are trying to enjoy this material world, being the tiny Purushas, and so we need to understand what is a Kshetra. So we are given a certain area of control. We are given certain free will to control. There is a field of activities that we can perform using these 24 elements, through which we enjoy the Prakriti. That is why Kshetra is the body which we are conditioned, Baddha Jivas, conditioned. We have taken up this body because we wanted to enjoy the variegatedness of the universe, and passing through various bodies, we had the tendency to enjoy all kinds of material variegatedness. That is why when we wanted to fly, we became birds. When we wanted to swim in the oceans, we became, we took up the body of fishes. And then finally, like the game goes, we finally have reached the final stage wherein we have gotten the physical human body, depending upon the human consciousness that we have reached over the period of all this experience. So Kshetrajna is observer of the body. I am in this body and I am able to experience this body, and I am able to know what is going on in this body. So it is limited to my individual body, and the super soul being Krishna in the form of Paramatma. He is situated in everybody's heart and he is observing. So there are 2 Kshetrajnas. Now Jnanam is understanding the relationship between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna and the 24 elements of the universe. Name is the end goal. Now, Arjuna asks Krishna, oh my dear Krishna, I just minimize. Yes. So Arjuna asks Krishna, oh Krishna, my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, the nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the end of knowledge. The blessed Lord then said, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is a knower of the field. As explained earlier, nature is Prakriti, the feminine creative energy. Purusha is the original controller of this Prakriti, that is Adi Purusha is Krishna. But here, as Arjuna inquires, Purusha here explains, in the Vedas it is explained that Purushas are also Jivas. So here Purusha means the enjoyer of the field, that is the individual Atmans who are residing within the 24 lakh species of material bodies. And the field, this field of activities, this body is called the field of activities. And there are two knowers of the field, namely one is the Atman himself and second is Paramatma seated within the hearts. And knowledge and the end of knowledge. So Krishna says, O son of Kunti, the body is called the field, and the one who knows this body is the knower of the field. So the third shloka, O scion of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies, and to understand this body and its owner is called knowledge, and that is my opinion. And that I am the knower in all the bodies. So Krishna is in the Purusha Sukta, it is said that Krishna resides in everyone's heart, and his size is approximately said as if you join all your 10 fingers and you place it one above the other. So this is the height, Dashangulam, it is said in the Purusha Sukta, that this is the height of Krishna Paramatma, who is standing exactly as shown in the picture with the Shankha Chakra Gada Padma standing on the lotus. He is standing with this height, Dashangulam, in the Purusha Sukta, it is said. So he is seated in everybody's heart. Although Krishna is with his devotees in the Goloka Vrindavana, but due to his motherly affection, and he knows that we are suffering in this material world. So with the compassion, he is seated in our hearts to guide us at every point in our life, because remembrance and forgetfulness comes from Krishna. So he is every time he is seated in the heart, he is giving us directions as to what to choose and what not to choose. Sometimes if we surrender and we pray to Krishna, then obviously he shows us the right direction. And what to talk about devotees, when devotees pray, they take complete shelter of the Lord, and Lord takes the control of their senses, and the pure devotees, Lord takes the control of their senses and guides them everywhere, and the senses remains purified always, does not contaminate. So here you can see from the pictures that whatever activities we are doing, Krishna is just observing our thoughts and what is the desire of ours, and according to our desires, the material modes of nature acts, and if that is reasonable and it can be pursued, then Krishna sanctions. Just like when we sit in a car and we drive, if we want to go in a certain direction, the engine starts, because the starting of the engine and the moving of the engine itself is the material nature, and the whole car and the whole principle is given by Krishna. So we are not moving, we are only desiring, but the material nature, which is the real engines in the cars, help you go in the direction you want to pursue. So how do we say that? Because some people say, where is God? How is he observing us? From where he is observing us? Is he in the sky looking at us downwards? So we get a very nice example from Mahabharata during the time when Gandhari, when she has made a lot of sacrifices for her husband, and she has been a very chaste wife, and she wears this scarf, this cloth around her eyes, as a symbol showing that she is also participating in the because her husband Dhritarashtra is also unable to see. She will also take this vow that I will also not take up, I will also not see the material world. I will also not enjoy it. So as a result of this penance, she gets a lot of siddhi and powers. So she had this special power that whomever she looks at, she could turn their body into solid diamond. So she wanted to make her son Duryodhana, his body to turn into solid diamond. So she asks his son that the next day, you come to me without any clothes, completely naked, so that when I open my eyes, you are there in front of me, and I will turn your body into solid diamond. So this was a private conversation and nobody knew about this. But then the next day morning, early morning, Duryodhana goes to the palace and Krishna suddenly appears. Krishna says, "Where are you going? And that too without any clothes. Don't you have any shame?" He says, "I'm going to my mother." And he did not tell the exact reason. So Krishna just chastised him. "Don't you have any shame? You're going in front of your mother with no clothes. At least wear some kopina. At least cover something up." So he wears a kopina and then he goes. And as soon as the mother opens, she finds that he's wearing a piece of cloth. And then that part remains unprotected. So how did Krishna come to know about all this? Because he's seated in everyone's heart. And the second example given is during the war of Mahabharata, Duryodhana goes to Bhishma saying that you have not fought enough. Your fight is not up to your mark. I know you are a great swordsman and you are an archer, but your display of your powers are not up to the point. So this is a great insult to a kshatriya, that somebody commenting that I'm not up to my mark. Duryodhana says, "I know that Pandavas are very dear grandchildren. They're very sweet. Your loving exchange, I know about all the loving exchanges you have, but right now you are on my side and now you are supposed to kill them." So then Bhishma gives him those 5 arrows, saying that the next day with these 5 arrows, you kindly shoot the Pandavas and definitely they will die, given the condition that Krishna doesn't raise his weapon. And Krishna, being the Paramatma in everyone's heart, comes to know about this. And he quickly tells Arjuna that tonight you go to their camp and ask for these 5 arrows. Arjuna does as Krishna says. So Arjuna appears in the Duryodhana's camps. And usually after the battle, everybody forgets their enmity and gets back to the familial. They eat together, they talk to each other as if they are relatives. I mean, obviously they are relatives, but during the battle time also, after the war ends in the evening, everybody is not in that mood of fighting. So Arjuna asks that, Duryodhana, do you remember that you were supposed to give me a boon? Sometimes when during the battle with the Devatas, I had helped you, and you told me that you are going to give me that one particular boon. Now Duryodhana says, yeah, definitely I will give you. What do you want? Do you want the kingdom? So he becomes artificially shows his big-heartedness, that here we are there to battle for the kingdom. Now through this you want to get the kingdom, surely, why not? I will give you. So Arjuna says, no, we will settle it in the battle, but right now I want your 5 arrows that which you're hiding. So Duryodhana goes, damn, how did he come to know about all this? Who told you? This was all secret. This was all, nobody was supposed to know. I hid all my arrows, at a very secretive place. How did he come to know about this? So this way, Arjuna takes all the arrows and then he is saved. So Krishna is very dear to his devotees also. And then this shows that in the Paramatma form, Krishna understands everybody, and that is how he is the knower of everyone's field. So we, how do we understand this field of activities and the knower and the field of knower better? So this is a field, right? So crops are grown here, and somewhere you can see there is a farmer. Consider this as a garden. Now there is a garden which is my body. It consists of 24 elements of nature, which are plants that give fruits and flowers and etc. And I am the knower of the field. I am the gardener. So I work through the field and through the material modes of nature because of my karma. From the 24 elements, that is the plants, I get the fruits. So I enjoy the fruits of the karma that is given by the material modes of nature, right? So who is giving the sanction to all this? On the right side end, you can see Sun is like the Paramatma who is observing all the fields, all the fields. There are owners of various fields across. So when when the sun moves over the lands, he just like the sun moves over the lands, he observes everybody. But the individual gardeners cannot see each other over the distance. Similarly, sun being the sanctioning authority is actually helping the material modes of nature get energy. Then the plants give us fruits. Just like the plants require the sunlight to give fruits. Similarly, material modes of nature also requires the sanction of Krishna to give you the fruits. So it is a very beautiful analogy to understand the kshetra and the kshetrajna. So kshetra is the garden, kshetrajna is the gardener, that is me, and another kshetrajna, which is the superknower, is Krishna Paramatma himself. But what is the difference between the two kshetrajnas? I am fallible, Krishna is infallible. I am subordinate to the material energy, but Krishna is independent and he is controlling the material nature as well. I am the knower, he is a super knower. Now, it is specially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. That knowledge of the field of the activities and the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. Now we know that the Vedanta Sutras are like the formula book. They are the condensed formula book containing all the formulas, all the realizations of Vedas, Puranas, and Upanishads. So in the Vedanta Sutra, it is like a formula book which contains all the sutras, small sutras, which are very important. Interestingly, this starts with the shloka, Athato Brahma Jijnasa. Athato means therefore. Therefore, try to understand the Supreme Brahman. So you must be wondering why this statement starts with therefore. Generally, a book starts with hypothesis, explanation, and then conclusion. But here the book starts itself with a conclusion. Therefore, try to understand the Supreme Brahman, the God. So now we have to understand what is the hypothesis, what is the body. So whatever experience we have got in the 84 lakh species of life, that is the first part. Now that you are human, now that you have opened the book of Brahma Sutra and you are reading, now that therefore understand what about God. That means all the experiences we had in 84 lakhs of species, we enjoyed to our full, senses were not controlled, and we what 84 lakh species is not a small time. It is like we took crores and crores and crores of years dwelling in this material world. I don't know how many lifetimes we have spent enjoying all kinds of pleasure. There is nothing remaining, all kinds of pleasure we have had. Now that you are in the human body, now that you are able to read this text, therefore start inquiring about Brahman, Brahma Jijnasa. Jijnasa means become curious, become Jijnasu, become the inquirer of the Brahman, the principle, the supreme principle of God. So, so we understand that the field of activities is a garden. Now I know that I am the knower, and there are 24 elements in my garden, 24 kinds of plants in my garden, and they bear fruits according to my karma. Right now, how do I come to know about the knower of all the fields? That is Paramatma. How do I come to know about the Ishvara? Now that I am in the body, how do I come to know the effects of the manifestations of the energies of the Lord? What are the ways to realize it? So the garden again is divided. The field of activities is again divided into 5 koshas, sheets or layers. So they are nothing but Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Jnanamaya kosha or Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandamaya kosha. Now let us understand one by one what are these koshas. Now koshas are the field of activities through which I realize the manifestation of energies of Krishna. Annamaya, Anna means food. Our external body, the sthula sharira, is made out of whatever we eat. That is called ahara. Ahara means one that which we try to make it oneself, to make it a part of our body. That is why when we take food, we make it a part of ourselves. That is why food is called ahara. So animals are in this state of realization. I mean, they are at this level, the bodily level. They identify themselves as cats and dogs and whatnot, and they constantly try to search for food, because it is a tendency of every animal to see that his body is maintained, and that he does not fall off. So if we do not provide our body food and water, then this body will obviously fall. Therefore, kids, when you watch kids when they are small, do you see every time they are picking something and putting it in their mouth? Because that is a tendency of a person who is at the bodily level, because he wants to constantly make everything part of himself and try to sustain this body. So therefore, how do we understand in the Annamaya Kosha layer that there is a presence of Ishvara in our body? Because who is providing the food? I know that I am just watering the plants, but the plants are giving the food. I know completely that food comes from somewhere else, and I depend on the food. So therefore, I realize the energies of the God through at this platform, that I need food for my survival. Therefore, there must be someone who is a higher principle underpinning this reality of the operations that are going on in my garden. There must be someone who is sanctioning all this. Therefore, nice food items are coming from the plants. So the underpinning reality is Krishna. That is what we, if one inquires, he understands at Annamaya stage form. Pranamaya Kosha. Prana means energy, life energy. So there are many voluntary and involuntary activities happening in our body. Heart is beating at a particular rate, and all our organs are functioning in a particular way. So it is completely involuntary. So this must be happening by some energy of the Lord, by some design and sanction of the material energy, isn't it? So in we call Ida Pingala, the life energies. In Chinese, it is called yin and yang, right? So all the involuntary activities are also happening simultaneously. Plants are also growing, isn't it? There is transformation of the very field that I am in. So there must be something, some force behind it, which is not in my control, yet somebody must be controlling. So in Pranamaya Kosha's level, one understands that that there is some involuntary energy that is, I am not the controller of it. So there must be somebody else. So in the Jnanamaya or Manomaya Kosha, one goes at the things, interacts at the level of the mental plane. See, one at this stage starts to like things, hates things, and then he understands, I like this, I don't like this, what is right, what is wrong, all these moral questions he tries to understand. What is feeling, willing, and acting? He sees that other animals must be having a similar mind, because they are also thinking, they are also moving, they are also willing as a result. So, and in the mental plane, uh, all these activities are happening. Now he is thinking in that position that there must be a higher mind behind all this, that is controlling the nature and providing me all this. So there are other gardens, there are other people who are also moving, but there must be somebody higher. There must be a super mind which must be controlling and organizing all this. So at this level, at the mental plane also, we realize the manifestation of supreme. So this three happens in animals as well, as in they are going after food, they are looking at their survival, and they are also thinking how to find food, where to find food. Now next is Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnana means Vishesha Jnana. That which helps us understand that we are not this body. Through the help of the Shastras and the Guru, we come to know that we are not this body. That from the childhood till adulthood, I am able to see my body change. But I, who refer as myself, does not change. All my tendencies have remained the same. although I have gained some knowledge, I am able to speak more. I have gained some more vocabulary to my speech. That does not mean that person has changed. So Vijnana, at the level of Vijnanamaya Kosha, he tries to, he understands that I am not this body. I am supposed to be looking at the advancement of my soul. And since I am not this body, there is a higher principle which will finally connect me to the Supreme Being, who till now in my lower levels was unmanifest. I did not have a direct realization of him, although I had bits and pieces of his energies being influencing me greatly. So at this stage, Vijnanamaya Kosha, he understands the Vijnana. Vijnana, as we call today, we call science as Vijnana, but science, today's science does not talk about anything on consciousness and how the consciousness evolves. Evolution talks about the evolution of the body, but actually it is a concoction of Vedic idea that evolution happens by transmigration of body, since that particular soul's consciousness has improved. That is how he is getting higher bodies as his consciousness improves. If we degrade our consciousness, then we get a body which is suitable to that particular consciousness. Not that we are given a cat body and we start dog's body and we start barking. We are given the bodies that our consciousness can handle, the capacities we have to have the pains and pleasure. If that consciousness is there, then only we are given that body. So our consciousness is capable of handling this complex human body and the complex human mind. That is why we are given higher responsibility of taking up this body. We are not conditioned, we are not jailed in this body. Actually, we have taken up this body that is suitable to our consciousness. So in the Anandamaya Kosha, the final one, when one begins after the Vijnanamaya Kosha, he study of the scriptures and all that, he comes to a realization of the Paramatma, and then he finally surrenders. And then after surrender, he begins a ninefold path of the bhakti. And then in this level, he gets that pleasure that Krishna reciprocates. So how does he come to know that Krishna and this verse? Because people who are chanting Hare Krishna mantra for years now have been experiencing this pleasure. That is how we come to the conclusion. It is a personal experience one has to undergo. So in this stage of Anandamaya Kosha, he comes in, although it is separate from the soul, mind you, but in this sheath of Anandamaya Kosha, he interacts with the Lord, he sings kirtans for the Lord, and he experiences some kind of a reciprocation from the Lord. So now Lord is directly reciprocating him. His prayers are being answered, and some realizations he is getting in the heart, and some directions are being shown. Guru is shown at Vijnanamaya Kosha. When the understanding starts, Guru comes in our life automatically. It is our good Saubhagya, or the spiritual Sukriti, that we have come in contact with spiritual gurus. We are under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and the guidance of Namanishta Prabhu of ISKCON Radha Govinda, Sri Radha Govinda Mandir ISKCON, Mangaluru. So all this happens when when Krishna is seated in the heart. He knows that this person is now looking for me. So it is his responsibility now to show the way. See, it would be very cruel if Krishna left us alone in this world, isn't it? Knowing we don't know the know-hows of this world. What is this all about? Why am I here? So therefore, scriptures and Guru play an important part in shining the light on the path towards Krishna. That is why we pay obeisances to our Guru, because he shows us the path. So at this stage, when Guru comes, we come in contact with the Guru, then we are correctly shown the path, and then we finally attain that loving relationship between ourselves and Krishna. That happens at Anandamaya Kosha. Now, this is a very little technical, so I need you to pay a little attention. So here it says the 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence, unmanifested The unmanifested, the 10 senses, the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate and the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered in the summary to be the field of activities of interactions. So the 5 elements, great elements, what are the 5 great elements? Pancha Mahabhutas are earth, water, fire, air and ether. These are the grossest elements in the material world. These are the building blocks of the universe, right? So there are 24 here. There are 24 listed. So next is a false ego. As soon as the jiva enters this material world, see, the material world is created by Mahavishnu, that is in Sadashiva form. He comes in contact with the material energy Prakriti, and through their union the material universe forms, because Narayana does not come in contact with the 3 material modes of nature. So through Shiva he comes in contact with the Prakriti, that is Parvati, and this whole material manifestation is created. So originally we are Bija Pradapita. Who is the seed giving father? He is Krishna himself, Vishnu, Narayana. But for our, so we wanted to enjoy the material nature, that propensity was there. Therefore there needed to be created a buffer wherein we could temporarily enjoy this tendency and then finally come to a conclusion that Krishna, I am fine only with you. I am now that I've entered the material, the ocean of samsara, it is very difficult for me to enjoy, because you are only the supreme enjoyer. I am supposed to be the object of your enjoyment. Therefore, the material world is created by these 24 elements, the 5 panchabhutas. False ego. Whenever the jiva enters the material world, he becomes aware of himself, and he starts identifying. Suppose I am a man and I am an Indian, I am a cat, or I am a dog. Such identifications, due to his material, due to the covering of the material body, he gets automatically, because nobody can take the individuality. So that ego will always be there, but it is called false ego. Real ego is to understand that I am the servant of Krishna, right? So so next is intelligence. So intelligence is also a part. The unmanifested. The unmanifested is the unmanifested form of the 3 material modes of nature. The mode of goodness, passion and ignorance, right? So the 10 senses. What are the 10 senses? 5 are working senses and 5 are knowledge senses. 5 knowledge senses are ears, eyes, nose, tongue and skin. Why are they called knowledge senses? Because we acquire knowledge through these senses. We get a sense of the outside world because our senses are outwardly. We get a sense of the outside world through when the senses go and grab the material objects. That is how we are able to get an idea of the material world. We are able to see, we are able to hear, we are able to smell, we are able to taste, we are able to touch, right? So 5 knowledge senses. And what are the 5 working senses? Ears, hands, legs, genitals and anus. Next is the 5 and the mind. Mind is also a subtle body, right? It is like in a computer language, it is a software, that which binds all the intelligence and senses. It is a software, mind. Sense objects is the qualai, that is the sense of hearing, the sense of seeing, the sense of smelling, the sense of taste, the sense of touch. So this is the sense objects. Now because of these 24 elements, because of the intermingling of these 24 elements, it produces desire, hatred, happiness and distress. So as a result of these 24 elements, when an individual Atman is in contact with all these 24 elements in the universe, that is all there is in the universe, it creates desire, hatred, happiness and distress. And these are happening in the field of his own activities. When he is performing his duties, due to the interaction with various elements, he is able to experience all this. Now in this picture you can see the 5 as explained in the first and second chapters of the Gita, that Ratha Eva, this body is considered as like that of a chariot. where the senses are the senses are representative of the horses. The reins of the chariot are indicative, representative of the mind, and the charioteer here is the representative of the intellect, and the person who is seated is the Atman, and the body as a whole is a chariot. Very nicely described over here. So now we are coming to the knowledge part. Now we know what is the field of activities. Now we know who is the knower and the super knower. Now Arjuna asks about the knowledge. Now what do we consider as knowledge? It is a long list of where Krishna answers that this is the qualities that become the ladders in the pursuit of the knowledge and in pursuit of self-realization and in the philosophical search for the absolute truth. So let me read: humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness, amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of the self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there is supposed to be ignorance. So Krishna has made a list of what is knowledge and what is not. Now we can compare what we are taught in the schools, whether it comes in this list. Do we actually consider it as knowledge, or it is just a piece of information, who fought against whom and all that, whether it is really required, whether we are given the higher knowledge of ourselves, whether we are being guided in the right direction. So we are the judges of our own understanding. So let us look at it one by one, and let us understand how these terms are actually explained by Srila Prabhupada. So first is the humility, amanitvam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his prayer says that amanina manadena kirtaniya sadaharihi trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari, because that we have to be as humble as a blade of grass and as patient as the creepers and the trees, and we have to always give respects to others and not expecting respects to oneself. And in this humility, in the state of this humility, we should be chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. We should consider ourselves lower than the blade of grass in the street, and in that state of humility, we should be chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and then there is a lot of prayojana in that. So humility, in the current world, we see nobody is very, everybody is after glory and self loathing and being honored. There is a tendency of wanting honor from others. So we should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of the honor, because once we take the honor, we have to also bear the brunt of insults as well. So we must be prepared for both. So we must stay equanimous, and we should take all these honors and praises with a pinch of salt. So that is how we should stay humility, that become humble, and the state of humility. Because when imagine you are seated in a beautiful car, and everybody is praising your car, the torque it produces, the power it generates, and the acceleration it picks up in a very short period of time. As soon as you come out of the car, what is the use of all those praises? Isn't it? It was all about your car. It was not about you, isn't it? So the person who is learned and who is knowledgeable has the quality of humility, and he understands that this praise is only for my external body. It is not about me. They don't even know who I am, actually. So they're looking at this outer external thing and they're praising me, right? So the second one is pridelessness, aham adambhitvam, the aham bhava. I see that a lot of people, we take pride that we belong to a certain caste and we belong to a certain country, and even religion. I've seen some people declaring that we are the only true religions of the god, and some scholar appears on YouTube, very famous. I would not like to name him, but a lot of shlokas he used to quote from the Puranas and Upanishads, saying, one of the shlokas I remember, Natasya Pratima Asti, that God does not have a form. And he declared, everyone was clapping, and everybody actually had invited him for a debate. So he did not come for a debate. He just goes on speaking like a monologue. So Natasya Pratima Asti, Prati means he does not have another copy. So there is no second to him. So he is the only one. Krishna is the only one. There is no copy. That does not mean he does not have an image. Prati means it's a copy. Pratima means the one without the second. So obviously Krishna is the supreme. He does not have a competitor, equal, what to speak of a competitor. So there are certain religious which claim to be supreme, and there is a lot of pride in them. Even though there is a lack of knowledge, understanding of the God and the form of the Lord, there is a lot of pride in people. So we have to give up, because this pride comes from the bodily understanding of the nature, and honor and dishonor must be considered same, because in the material world these honor and dishonors are like the waves. Just like the happiness and distress are the waves in the ocean of this material world, honor and dishonor are like the high tides and the low tides. So it can hit you any time, but when the good times are there, just it is considered that bad times are also coming, is on the way, right? So non-violence. So we have to be very non-violent. What does this mean? Non-violent now means that we should not kill animals, right? That is what non-violence means. But Prabhupada says that even disturbing somebody is also violence. Just like if I stay in an apartment and somebody from outside is pelting stones at my house, even though I'm not this body, I understand that I'm not this body, I'm the soul, I'm residing in the house, but I'm not this building. But even then somebody is pelting stones at me, I'm disturbed, isn't it? Similarly, all the jivas are going through their own pace of journey towards Krishna and to attain the human body, right? Everybody is there in their own pace. Some take longer, some take faster. But when a jiva, just like you, have passed through various forms of life, that jiva also is passing through various. So we should not disturb his journey, isn't it? So it will only delay his taking the human body and then achieving what is the supreme position, isn't it? So therefore we should become very non-violent as much as possible. But in the extreme conditions, where in the desert, if suppose you're not finding any body, any food, then it is recommended that in the Pashu Dharma that you should be taking care of yourself, and then you should see what is appropriate. So one should acknowledge the spiritual entity within all the living entities. So next is tolerance, kshantihi. We must bear the brunt of dishonor and honor as well. So when the honor comes, we should say thank you, and when the dishonor also comes, we should say thank you. We should be samatosha in santosha platform. Samatosha, simplicity, arjavam. That is, we have to be straightforward. Duplicity and hypocrisy needs to be kept at bay. So it is said that we should disclose even the truth to an enemy. We should be that simple, that even enemy considers you to be a very not that we show one cheek and the other cheek to be slapped, propagated by some people. Dharma himsa tathaivacha, ahimsa paramo dharma, dharma himsa tathaivacha. That ahimsa is the best philosophy you can follow. But then if it requires you to take up the weapon to protect dharma, then you can do himsa. That is when you are supposed to protect the dharma. If suppose somebody is disturbing another living entity, causing disturbance, then you can go and stop him. So that is dharma himsa tathaivacha. People generally quote ahimsa paramo dharma and keep quiet, but actually the whole sentence is dharma himsa tathaivacha. Cha means also. So accepting the spiritual master is a very, very important aspect in the spiritual life, because unless we have a guide to guide us in the spiritual matters which are transcendental, which are metaphysical in nature. See, when we are studying things of the material nature also, there are various universities and teachers to guide us, isn't it? Things which we can see and experience. But in the matters of dharma and the subtle matters and the finer knowledge in the relationship between us and Krishna and the material nature, the spiritual master is a must, because without the, if you create only libraries and without teachers, are you able to, will you be able to study all the subjects? It is impossible. You need some guide, and through the mercy of spiritual master, because he is always, Krishna, and there is an Krishna and spiritual master share this loving spiritual exchanges, that he will be, spiritual master actually must be from Vaikuntha, it is said. Unless he is from Vaikuntha or he is not connected, he cannot guide anybody. So we have taken the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, and we must consider ourselves very, very, very fortunate. Therefore, accepting spiritual master is one of the aspects of knowledge. Next is cleanliness. Externally we are bathing, internally we have to chant the Hare Krishna mantra that cleanses our heart slowly and steadily. See, if in our room there is a lot of dirt, and if we keep it as it is, we'll not be able to find them. We think everything is fine, but as soon as we start cleaning, dusting the room, we find that so many dirty things were piled up. So when we are chanting, so many thoughts and so many may come, but it is as if it is cleaning, and your heart is showing. It is as if you are pulling the dirt from your heart, and it is appearing in front of you. It is a good process. So slowly and steadily, we will be able to reach this state. And next is steadiness. We have to be very steady. Why is this steadiness? Because in all our previous lives, we have let go of these senses everywhere. You go anywhere, it is like a horse. You have let go of the horses anywhere. You have not restricted it. Wherever the senses are pulling, you have gone. You have tried maximum, and you look at the animals. Their senses are not controlled. If you perform an experiment, repeated experiment of showing a foodstuff, it will take a particular direction as if it is a robot. It is showing a tendency of constantly manifesting the same tendency of like a robotic tendency, because the senses are not in control. But we can control the senses. Only humans, the 4 lakh kinds of human species, only they can control the mind, and we have to be steady in our practice. Only when we store steadiness in our practice, Krishna will show us the next level, when we become steady in our practice, right? So next is self-control, Atma Vinigraha, reject anything unfavorable to spiritual advancement, and control of the senses, right? So we see a particular trailer on YouTube of an upcoming film, and then we are drawn towards it, that we have to see the movie, and then your rounds are remaining. What do? Is it favorable? So if your chanting rounds are remaining, and you want to go to watch a movie, then is it favorable? So you must judge. Likewise, what is favoring my advancement in Krishna consciousness, and what is hindering? Because I'll tell you, slowly suppose I go to a movie next, so I've given a leeway to my mind that I can watch something, something of a distraction, let's say, and slowly there is another advertisement of another movie coming up. Slowly I'll be watching all the movies which are recommended to me. So once you give a small doorway to all these habits, then the whole, it's like a floodgates. Literally you open, everything comes, flooding. So therefore we must be very careful in our choices as to what favors Krishna consciousness and what doesn't favor Krishna consciousness. And renunciation of sense objects, Indriya Artheshu Vairagyam, not to cater to unnecessary demands, gratified only to keep our body fit. Whatever is needed to keep our body fit, we do. And we should not cater to unnecessary demands, because have you ever heard a person, a drunkard, saying, this is my last, a peg of a glass of alcohol, and then no more I shall drink. Have you heard anybody saying this? No, because as soon as you uh, take to pleasing your senses, you become the servant of your senses. The senses thinks that I am the Lord now. Now you have to answer to all my demands and you have to take care of my demands, right? So during the lockdown, we had observed that so many people had become, disturbed because their senses were not in control. So their body was actually going towards that. Even though the shops were shut, they were standing outside the bars and the restaurants because their body is pulling towards them. See, it is not that we are going, we are only desiring, but then the material nature and the desires are so strong. When the horses in the chariot are unable to be controlled by the by the mind and the intellect, the horses go haywire, and then the ratha also, the chariot also has to go in that particular direction. So we are thinking that I want to eat something today, I'm going. I want to watch a movie and I'm going. No, we are being actually pulled by, it is called the vega, the force. We are being pulled by our senses, and then our body also moves. Just like the mind is unable to make distinction, it is unable to control the senses, and the buddhi, the charioteer, even though he's situated there, he's useless because the reins, the reins of the chariot are loose now, and the horses are going towards sense enjoyments. Now, how to control this now? Therefore, the chariot also moves. So that is why we see our body also moves in that direction. We can only desire, but we see, as I'm moving this hand, I am only desiring. But because there is a sanction of Krishna and the material modes of nature are sanctioning this, because of material nature, I'm able to move this hand. I am only desiring. That we have to understand. It is like the car having engine. I am not moving the car. Material energy are the engines that are propelling the machines. I am only giving it directions and pushing the accelerator. That's all. So absence of false ego. Now I am this body. I am an American. I am cat. I am dog. All these are false egos. What is real ego? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. That means the eternal situation of a living entity is that he is the eternal servitor of Krishna. That is his position. We are supposed to be, we are Bhakta and Krishna is Bhokta. Like the word Upabhokta means the enjoyer of, and the enjoyer, Bhokta. Bhakta means he is the object of the enjoyment. Right, so we have to become the objects of Krishna's enjoyment. Now, perceptions of evil, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. We know that to pass from one bodily form of life to another, we have to cross from one yoni to another. How does this happen? Suppose this body never dies, how will I be able to cross over to the next yoni? So there must be an end to something, to this body, and there must be a start to something. Very logical, isn't it? So how does this happen? Can there be a situation where one person dies just all of a sudden and then takes up a body? No, it has to be very logical. So therefore, there is Jara and Vyadhi. There are diseases and old age. Old age is an indication that you're reaching your end time, and soon disease is going to attack you. So your body is going to reach an end. This is a warning. So it is very logical. If suppose there was no disease and there is no suffering and there is no old age, then all of a sudden somebody falls and then leaves his body. It is not very logical. Then atheists would say, see how illogical the system is. That you say God exists and this world is perfect, but see how there is no logical end to all this. So that is why Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi is just a transformation of one body to another. It is giving way to all this detachment, and this is also a reminder that this world is very temporary, isn't it? This world is very temporary, and if time and again we are not reminded by these shocks, we shall continue to live as if we have lifetime of thousands of years. So therefore, when we die, whatever we accumulate and whatever we have, it is all going to be turned into a big zero. Everything will be turned into a big zero, right? So what we achieve, what is the accumulation? Whatever we do, bhakti, we chant the names of the Lord, that is only remembered. That is only our real currency actually. Because it is said, whatever little we do, Krishna takes acknowledgement, takes cognizance of the same. So there is a story, once there was an idol of Krishna, and then a lamp was lit in front of it. Oil wick was there, and then the lamp was lit. So generally, rats have a tendency to look for oily substance and eat. So the lamp was lit, and the rat came and it wanted to eat the oily substance. And during that, what happened? Its tail got, caught the fire, and it started burning, and it could not put off the fire, and it was like suffering, and it was rolling here and there. So in the meantime, while it was rolling, its tail was moving in a circular direction as if it was doing archana to the deities of Krishna. Now, Krishna being very soft-hearted and very compassionate, and Krishna is thinking, oh, this rat is doing archana to me. And he's very grateful that, oh, even being in the body of a rat, he's doing such a wonderful thing. I have to deliver this soul. And he gives that rat supreme position, and he gives him a position in Vaikuntha. So imagine how compassionate the Lord is, and how fortunate we are that we are given this tongue, but which no other human, no other species has. We have this great opportunity to chant his names every moment. Actually, great Vaishnavas consider even sleeping as a waste of time. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, please give me 1,000 tongues so that I can savor the chanting of the names of Krishna and Rama. It is said, Pibare Rama Rasam, Rasane Pibare. The song goes like, Pibare Rama Rasam, Rasane Pibare Rama Rasam. That, oh Rasane, oh tongue, that which can taste the sweet mellows of Rama Nama, please chant the names of Rama and taste the sweet, take the ruchi of the Rama Nama. So therefore, detachment, we have to also sacrifice some things for Krishna, because it is, our human life is a very rarest of the rarest life forms. That too in Bharata we are born. I'll tell you that even Devatas consider this human form of life to be very, very rare. As soon as they accumulate some punya, they actually go to the, if in the previous chapters you must have discussed in the Karma Yoga, that one who has fallen from the path of bhakti, what happens to him? So, if he has done bhakti for say 50%, then he goes to the higher, because there is tendency in the heart of material enjoyment. But Krishna being very merciful, he sends them to the higher lokas where their enjoyment is 1,000 times. Why the enjoyment is 1,000 times in the higher lokas? Because the senses are very sharp over there. The sharper the senses, the more the enjoyment. Suppose I have a fever and I am not able to taste food stuff. So what happens? Offered the best of the foods, I am not able to taste it. But isn't it? So similarly, the senses of the devatas are very, very, very sharp. That is why their enjoyments are 1,000 times. So we spend some times over there, thousands of years over there, and then when we return back, we are given a good home and good place. I mean, we are born into a very pious family, and those who understand dharma and so on. So therefore, we must be ready to sacrifice everything, because this must be the last, life. Of course, the highly devoted devotees say, I do not want any moksha, I do not want to go to even the Vaikuntha, because just give me your Ananya Bhakti and Ananya, Bhava. Please remain in my heart and give your Bhakti to me. That alone is sufficient for me. I will stay in the hell if you want. But please never, see that I never forget you. Because that is the Prema Dhana. Prema Ratan Dhan Payo, Payo ji main to Prema Ratan Dhan Payo. Because the Prema Ratan, the Dhana is a very precious thing, but no, Krishna doesn't give it to anybody that easily. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstatic kirtan and his compassionate heart, he is giving everybody the Premadhana, even if he is not qualified. That is why the avatara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very, pleasing and very compassionate, that no other avatara gives. So we should make, utmost use of this, the mercy. We have to get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So next is entanglement with children, wife, and see, there are 4 varanas, right? 4 varanas. So from the brahmacharya, next to grahastha, vanaprastha, and then sannyasa. So if passing from grahastha to vanaprastha, husband and wife both practice spirituality, being away from the home. So we must not develop this attachment. Of course, we need affection, but then we must gradually also practice detachment from the homely life. And when one takes the sannyasa, so one has to even leave, part ways with his spouse, and then practice it, right? So if we develop attachment and the moha still remains for the household life, then one is not able to progress very nicely. Therefore, this must be practiced. Now, never even-mindedness, that whenever there is stress and there is happiness, that has to be taken with the equal footing. Next is unalloyed devotional service, engaging oneself in 9-fold of bhakti, right? So what are the 9-fold bhakti, the 9-fold process of bhakti? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atmanivedanam. That will be explained further in other, must have been explained in the previous chapter, I suppose. Aspiring to live in a solitary place, not mixing with the materialistic people. See, materialistic people are full of all this information about things pertaining to the material world. So whatever goes into whatever we read, whatever we hear also comes out. So nothing related to the metaphysical things or spiritual comes out from the materialistic people. So we find it very, over the period as we grow, we find it very difficult to, even talk to the subjects about Krishna and all that, because they have not gained enough insight into all this. So we must make everyone devotees. We must give this knowledge to everyone, so that everyone develops, because everyone wants this knowledge, because that is a food for the soul. Harinama Sankirtan is a food for the soul, and knowing about Krishna, our eternal relationship with Krishna, is the only thing that is relevant. Everything else is secondary. Talking about Krishna is only the primary function. Everything else is secondary, actually. See, suppose I describe how beautiful this jail is. Is it of any use? If I talk about how beautiful this hospital is it of any use? I am supposed to get out of this jail and hospital and find my true nature. The dharma means the innate quality between the soul and Krishna. What is the quality of a salt? What is the quality of the sugar? It provides sweetness. Similarly, my innate quality is to serve Krishna. That is where I am happy. If I'm away and try to lord over the material world, I'm not happy here. We can see from the results that we have gotten from 84 lakh species of life. It is very, very difficult. So therefore, we must inquire into the God. Therefore, detachment from the general mass of people, because general mass of people are only interested in the politics and whatnot. So have good relationship with them and try to preach as much as possible, but stay detached. Next, coming on, let's go to the slokas explaining the glories of the Brahman Krishna. So Krishna says, I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So now I shall explain the knowable, knowing which everything will be known. So Brahman is the principle. There are 3 principles of God, which is Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, and Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. Bhagavatam says that the Brahman, the all-pervading Brahma Jyoti, is actually the Kanti of the Lord coming from his bodies. The spiritual world does not need any sun or the moon, because the Kanti itself glows the entire material world, the spiritual world. But here in the material world, basically it is Andhakar, and then the sun and moons are actually providing the luminous bodies. So Brahman, the spirit, and the beginningless are all subordinate to me. Even and the Paramatma, he is situated in the heart. Bhagavan form is the actual person seated in the Goloka Vaikuntha, actually reciprocating with the pure devotees. But whatever we offer to the Krishna over here, he accepts. Just like from the sunlight, from the sun, sunlight emerges and it reaches as if he's extending the arm. Similarly, Krishna's potential is so that we offer tulasi and a rose to Krishna, he extends his hand from Vaikuntha. He accepts it. So he is beyond the cause and effect of material world. Just like the sun is hovering over our fields of activities, we are controlled by our material, the modes of nature. He is beyond it, and he is transcendental to it. So super soul is the original source of all the senses. He is the Hrishikesha, and yet he is without senses. Right? He is unattached. Although he is the maintainer of all living entities, he transcends the material modes of nature, and at the same time, he is master of all the modes of nature. Self-explanatory. Now, the 16th shloka, the supreme truth exists both internally and externally, in the moving and the non-moving. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or not to know. Although far away, he is also near to us. Now, here let us consider. Now, he exists both internally and externally. Internally as Paramatma, externally as in every atom. Actually, Krishna is present as Kshirodaka Shai Vishnu. In every atom, he is present. And in the Brahmanda, in the whole of the Brahmanda, there are various layers of the Brahmanda. The whole Brahmanda, the inner space, is a disk of 50 crore yojana. And the next layer, outside layer, the thickness of the layer itself is 100 crore yojana. The inner layer is 50 crore diameter. Outer layer thickness itself is 10 times of that. Next layer is that of a water, that is 1000 crore yojana. And so on. If you add earth, fire, water, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, that will come to around 1 followed by 13 zeros and so on. So the material space is very tiny, and the layers and the sheets of the material energy, bhutas and all the elements are very, very vast. It is unfathomable. So in that inner space, it is half filled by water, and it is called Garbha. Right? So it is half filled by water, and inside that Vishnu is lying in the Garbhodakashai ocean. So in every atom, he is present as Kshirodakashai Vishnu. In every universe, he is present as Garbhodakashai Vishnu. And this whole big universe is coming out of the skin pore of Mahavishnu. As he exhales outside, exhales from all the tiny pores from the Mahavishnu, these universes emerge. And when he inhales, all the universes come and settle again. So imagine, when the universe is created, half of the time is spent by Brahma in creating itself. And then there are so many, floods, these great floods, right? That happens every day in the day of Brahma. Annihilation and creation and annihilation, it happens. To give you an example of comparatively, when Brahma blinks once in the Satyaloka, when he blinks once, we pass on 14 lifetimes. Can you imagine? When Brahma just blinks, we have already passed 14 lifetimes. So Brahma must be appearing to be very still, right? There is time relativity in every lokas. So it should not be confused with the general relativity theory of Einstein. That is different, and this is different. So he is beyond the power of material senses. And so this Bhagavata, it is described in the Bhagavata, all the material, in the 5th canto. There is a description, very, very beautiful description as to how far the planets are, how big the planets are, and the descriptions of all the, the Meru Parvata in the north, and how many khandas are there in the Bharatavarsha. We are in the southernmost direction. All that is described in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. Very, very detailed explanations are given about the dimensions of the universe, right? So he is very, very far, as well as he is very near to us. So we can understand in the Bhagavan form, he is very far and very, very near as well, because See, Bhagavan is looking at us just like a mother does to his child, right? We may say that we do not want your association, or we do not want to consider you God, we do not have nothing to do with you. But Krishna, out of his mercy and compassion, he keeps one eye on the child. Just like a child tries to, as soon as it starts walking, it tries to mingle with other children and wants to play in the park independent of the mother. But the mother knows that independent of him, he will suffer. That is why, even though the Krishna has released us to go into the material world, out of compassion, he's always looking at us, in being present in the heart. See, mothers cook, right? Mothers are very good at cooking, right? Naturally, women are very good at cooking. That is a natural tendency. So if a child who is also a girl child tries to cook like a mother, using the Chinese cooking items, the fake knife and the fake flame and all that, and finally when the mother cooks and the child cooks, starts cutting the vegetable and all that, the child eats her dish and finds that this is not very palatable food. The mother, whatever she's cooking, is the original food, right? So then she cries, why this happens? Similarly, we, as being the part of, the Purusha, being tiny, the marginal energy of God, we also have a tendency to enjoy like Krishna, because he is the, qualitatively we are same as Krishna, but quantitatively we are different, and we are trying to master or lord it over the material energy, right? So being qualitatively one, we have the same tendency, because that tendency is there in Krishna. So he is the source of everything, even, but our qualities have become perverted, right? So Krishna, being very compassionate, he is situated in everybody's heart, watching everybody's actions and guiding them, right? So the supreme truth exists both internally, externally. The same has been repeated as previously. So he is the source of all luminous objects. Just like he is the sun, he is also the rays of sun. That is Brahman concept. Sun planet, so the sun disk is Bhagavan concept. The sun rays is the Brahman concept, and Krishna situated in the heart is the Paramatma concept. So he is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. Therefore, he is situated in everybody's heart. So the sun rays comes, and then it is there in the boy's heart as well. It is shown here. So the Vedas describe the Kshetrajnas, mainly ourselves and the supreme knower, as the two birds sitting on a tree, and we are actually eating the fruits of the tree, and the Supreme Lord is just watching us. So thus the field of activities, the knowledge and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand it thoroughly. It is not sentimental. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita leads us very incrementally from one truth to another. It says one truth, and then after we follow it, we come to realize that this truth actually is, this is very true, and I've realized it in the heart. So likewise, it guides it. It is not blind faith. You don't have to believe in the blind faith. Unlike other faiths, it is not blind. It is very systematic, and it is very scientific. It is very scientific. One truth leads to the another, and your faith grows more stronger because you have realized it in the heart. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is already discussed that just like there is sun and there is sun ray, so you cannot determine at what point the sun emits. Just like fire, and it has sparks. Spark is also there, and the whole source of fire is also there. So there is no point in time when it got generated. It is always there. Similarly, our relationship and we as dependent jivas and God being independent are always present. Krishna says that in the beginning chapters of Bhagavad Gita, right? So we are passing on from one body to another, likewise, depending upon our karma and our desires. So nature is said to be the cause of all the material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various suffering and enjoyments in this world. So nature gives us all the fruits of all the material activities that we perform, like a cause and effect. But the living entity is suffering because he is becoming attached to those fruits, and he's enjoying, and likewise he is also suffering those fruits. So we must be careful in growing what kinds of fruits we need. We should only plant those kinds of plants. So we have to develop our consciousness in such a way that we stay away from the sinful life, because if our consciousness gets degraded, then God knows which, according to the karma, which body we might take. So here it shows that if you have the tendency to munch on everything and just keep eating like a hog, then your consciousness is you are not fit to take up a human body, because you're supposed to be realizing the supreme Brahman, and now you're behaving like a pig. Now your your tendency is that of a pig, so you better take up a pig body of a pig, wherein you can satisfy all your needs. So your capacity is not to take up the human body. It is better that somebody else gets it, and you better take rest in the body of a pig. So we need to be very careful. It is warning us. So the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that of the material nature. Then thus he meets with good and evil amongst the species. So among the all species there are good souls, and there are people, good-natured people and bad-natured people as well, depending upon the type of seed they are. So we have come to this material world to find out what kind of a seed we are. What is the relationship between us and Krishna? Demons also. It will be very at this point. It is demons also have a tendency to please Krishna by taking part in his leelas. But that is because he has a special relationship with Krishna, and we cannot try to become a demon and summon Krishna. If I become a demon and Krishna will come faster. No, no. Everyone is a different and unique jiva, and everybody's tendency to please is different. So yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, who is the supreme proprietor, and the permitter, who is also known as the supreme soul. The one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of the nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. That is, if we understand the interaction of material modes of nature, the living entity, and the things, philosophy concerning the material nature, he is fit to be liberated, Krishna says, because he will not take birth again in this material world, regardless of his present position. So some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation. That is, yogis and renunciates meditate and realize the Paramatma in the heart, and then they surrender. And others through cultivation of knowledge, by understanding analytical studies of the matter. The analytical studies in the material world means there is a tree, and then you are studying the leaves and the barks of the tree, and ultimately you want to come to know the roots of the tree. That is Vishnu, that he is maintaining everything. So the analytical studies of science and everything, as we know, should actually come to the conclusion that Vishnu is the ultimate, the supporting factor of all this material world. But that is not happening, as we see now, because the material scientists only want to exploit the material nature. They do not want the controller of the the material world. They only want to exploit the material nature. And the one who analyzes universe through the material analytical study of Sankhya Yoga and so forth, he comes to the conclusion that Vishnu is the root. So therefore, if I water the root of the tree, then then the water reaches to all the leaves and barks. So I need not go watering all the individual leaves and barks. The others who are working without fruitive desires, that is karma part, where people are working in the Krishna consciousness without desiring any material, phala to themselves, fruits of their actions to themselves. That is how they stay. That is akarma. That has been explained in the previous chapters. Right. So again, there are those, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him and from others. Right. So those who are unable to, analytically study, who do not have a bent of an analytical mind, they take up the spiritual process just by hearing and listening. All we are doing is hearing and listening, isn't it? Our consciousness is being improved just by listening. Are we punching somewhere on the wall and improving our body and trying to get it? No, we are just sitting and listening. We are doing our kirtans, and we are just, shrotum. We are becoming, by shravanam, our consciousness is being purified, right? So those who cannot do this analytical study, they can straight away take up the worship of the Supreme Lord, because it is sanctioned already in the Puranas and the Vedas. Because there is a tendency to hear from the authorities, they transcend the path of birth and death. So whatever scientists are doing, they should come to the conclusion of, that Vishnu is the supporter of all this and he is the root of all this. But those who cannot do this, they can directly take up the process of worship and bhakti and then achieve the same results. That is explained in the Dhyana Yoga section. So, O chief of the Bharata, know that whatever you see in the existence, both moving and unmoving, is only the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. As explained earlier, that everything in the material world is happening because of the interaction of these 24 elements, and the Atman being the 25th element, he is experiencing all this as the butter is being churned. All these 24 elements are being churned, and whatever the fruits he is getting, he is experiencing. So one who sees a super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed, actually sees. So yaha pashyati sa pashyati, that one who sees that the individual soul is accompanied by the super soul, and one who sees that neither the super soul nor the soul is ever destroyed, he actually is saying, actually, it is said over here. And everybody, Krishna is situated in everybody's heart out of compassion. So we must pay respects to each and every living entity as our own brothers. And we should have, just like we are given the responsibility of taking care of all the other living entities. Just like an elder brother, we are supposed to be taking care of them. And even the dogs, I will tell you the particular story of Jadabharata, that when he had taken up the body of a deer because he could not achieve he could not reach the prema stage. He was there at the bhava stage, and then due to the attachment of a deer, he had the image of a deer in his mind, and when he left his body, he gained this body of a deer, right? And then in the form of a deer, he started roaming around the monasteries where the spiritual people were practicing spirituality. So the remnants of the Krishna Prasada, the deer used to eat. And slowly, in the next life, he again got the human birth. Therefore, to all the living entities who are in the animal bodies also, it is best that we offer Krishna Prasada, because we do not know the effect of the Krishna Prasada. The example is given. There is a beautiful story of Ramanujacharya going along with the disciples, and they come across a lake, and then it is lunch hour. So they sit down and they unpack their boxes to savor the Krishna Prasada offered to the Lord. And after they finish their eating the palatable food, they go towards the lake to wash their hands. As they wash their hands, from the prasada, the remnants of the prasada from their fingertips gets into the water. And as soon as this prasada gets into the water, the fishes around start jumping on it and trying to snatch it from each other's mouth, and they eat, and immediately they take up the 400 form of Vishnus and they go to Vaikuntha. And see, looking at all this happen in just a brink of a time, they are very astonished, his disciples. So they go to Ramanujacharya to inquire that how is that we have eaten the same prasadam, but these fishes who were not even qualified, they were in the human bodies. As soon as they touched the prasadam and they savored it, they relished it, they took up the form of 400 Vishnu form and they went to Vaikuntha. How is that? So Ramanujacharya beautifully says that these fishes had so much faith in the food that so many days they could not find food, and now they found, they had so much faith in the Lord that, oh my Lord, you have provided me this food, and let me savor it and save myself. This faith they had in the prasadam that it will save them. So this faith in the prasada actually delivered them. So similarly, Mahaprasada of Jagannath Puri and of the holy places is considered very, very with high. It can be even taken from the mouth of a dog eater and can be taken. It is said from the mouth of a Chandala also, the remnants of a prasada can be taken. There is also a story that Narada, after he from the Vaikuntha when he returns, and Shiva asks, "Where is my prasad? Where is the remnants of Krishna prasada?" He says, "I have not brought it." And then he finds a one grain of rice in his stuck between his fingernail, and Shiva asks for that. So imagine what is the glory of the prasada, right? So moving on. One who sees the Supreme Soul in every living being and is equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind as he approaches the transcendental destination. So we should not think that this particular entity is a lowly life. Everybody has gone through this journey, and everybody takes time, right? So we must be very compassionate towards other living entities, and even if they commit some mistakes, we should become large-hearted and excuse them. This is a very beautiful. I remember sometime a year back when I saw this movie Avatar, right? Avatar, when this particular person sleeps inside the box, and then he controls a particular body elsewhere in the planet of Pandora, I suppose. So he was a handicapped person, and he could only. So the idea is that similar to this, that he is only desiring to move his hand and run across the planet. That same task is being performed by the body which is there in other planet. So similarly, we are only desiring to move our hands and do some this and that, and the material nature does it for us with the sanction of Krishna. So one who can see that all the activities are performed by the body which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, we do nothing, actually sees. So I gave an example of the car. We do nothing, and everything is involuntary, isn't it? All the parts of our body are moving, it is getting healed, it is providing immunity from the diseases and all that. It is happening as if it is being designed, right? So we are only desiring. So one who sees this is actually seeing it. So just like the sky does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading, similarly the soul is situated in the Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. So Brahman, although contained in the body, which is contaminated by the material nature, it is transcendental. It does not gets contaminated. So a son of Bharata, as the sun alone eliminates all the material universe, so does the living entity when within the body illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Just like sun and the moon illuminate the whole cosmos, similarly this dead matter, this body is a dead matter, right? So that is being illuminated by the soul. It is as though the soul is all pervasive within the body. Although it is situated locally in the heart, it is as if it is all around the body. We can feel the presence of it all around the body because of the its spread. So one who knowingly sees this difference between the body and the owner of the body can understand the process of liberation from this body. So one who knows the difference between the kshetra and the kshetrajna is fit for liberation from the bondage. So all this while we have been studying that who is a kshetra, what is a kshetra, and who is a kshetrajna. So one who knows this, he can understand the process of liberation from this bondage and also attains the supreme goal. Right. So we come to the end of this chapter and we quickly go through what are the six main pillars. So one is Arjuna asks the 6 questions. Right. Next is the descriptions of kshetra, kshetrajna, and jnana. What is knowledge? And what is the process of acquiring knowledge are the steps which I elaborately explained. Jnayam, what is the object of this knowledge, is to finally surrender to Krishna and worship. Right. Prakriti, Purusha, and the union, how this material universe is formed by the union of this Prakriti, and vision of knowledge. Kshetra Jnanam, to see that I am separate, Krishna is there as a super knower, and the Kshetra, to distinguish between them and to see the relationship between them. That is the summum bonum of this chapter. Hare Krishna. So we have come to the end of, we have almost finished the chapter. I hereby thank you all for kindly listening to me, and I would like to request your comments and questions. If anybody has any questions, Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Guruji is the most beautiful chapter I found yet, with such good illustrations made for best understanding. Yes, yes Mataji. Yes, all the slides have been made by Namanishta Prabhu and team at the temple. So our sincere effort is to make you understand all the subtler concepts of the chapter, and so that in this 18 days you are able to take home the complete understanding with the limited time we have. That is our best effort, and thank you for yes. Anybody else wants to say something? Anybody wants to have ask any questions or comments? You are welcome. You can unmute yourselves, I suppose. Right. So you may ask your questions in the chat. So I'm confused about the union part. Lord Shiva made this universe or the Brahma. Right. The material universe itself, Narayana, through Sadashiva, he forms, because Narayana does not, he is transcendental to the material modes of nature. Therefore, through Sadashiva, he creates this material universe. Right. The 24 elements are created. The basic building blocks are created by the union of this Shiva and Sadashiva and Parvati ji. Right. So parents, our parents, father and mother of this material world are Shiva and Parvati. Right. But the eternal seed-giving father, original father, is Krishna and Narayana himself. So Brahma takes up, Brahma is also a position. Right now, our Brahma is Varinchi. So that is a position. So very highly qualified jivas take up this position of Brahma and they start creating the universe, and elements and energies are all there. But then using these material energies, he creates different kinds of bodies. He creates different kinds of bodies, so suitable to whatever learning, because every Brahma is trained. There are 199 Brahmas waiting to be trained. So when one Brahma's lifetime is passed, so another Brahma after his probationary period comes, and then he applies his knowledge and then he creates. He starts with the creation. So, right, that is how Brahma is actually a post in the Satyaloka. He is overlooking all the creation and all that. He is just like a CEO in the organization. There is a person within the organization, right? But the owner of all the universes is Krishna himself. But Brahma is actually, he is being given the duty to take care of this universe and the handling. He's like a CPU. He has a four brains. There are other universes where Brahma has thousands and lakhs of heads. Our universe is considered to be one of the smallest. Pranamaya is on the life energy. That is also life energy, right? There are Ida, Pingala, life energies, and there are involuntary energies. The organs are functioning on their own. So the Pranamaya is life force. Right. On the Jnanamaya Kosha or the Manoya Kosha is on the mental plane actually. When the person starts thinking the moral duties and what is right and what is wrong. So that is at the mental level, that is Pranamaya or Manomaya Kosha. On the bodily platform, it is still Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha. Right. Thank you, Guruji, for clearing this. I also wanted to know how do we address different gods, like we say Lord Krishna, but when we address other gods, including demigods, use the word Lord or Bhagavan. Aren't we wrong in saying this? Bhagavan is actually used as we are paying respects to somebody. We even call somebody Bhagavan. Actually, Bhagavan is to be used for only Krishna because Bhaga means six. One who has the six qualities is only Bhagavan, but with due respect, we also refer to other as Bhagavan, other demigods as Bhagavan, because even the demigods are individual living entities who are much more qualified than us to take up the different ministries. Just like there are very other ministries in the government. So their bodies are, if there is ministry of electricity, the energy, his body is not made of, that energy. But here, Agni, his body itself is made of Agni. So, right. So Soma, his body, Vayu, his body itself is made of that. So because we are in the material body, we are able to control other things. See, we are made up of earth, right? Basically, earth, water. Our body is made up of that. That is why we are able to control things which are made up of that similar material. So demigods who should be controlling after the fire and the different elements, their body itself is made of that. Very logical, isn't it? For their control of those elements, their body itself is made of that. We are able to pick up that stone and throw because our body is also made up of earth. That is why we are able to control it. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? I think you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Can the co-hosts help me in this?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So apart from Krishna Bhagwan, we shouldn't address any other god or demigod as Bhagwan, right?
Technically, we should not be, but then out of respect, we do address them. We address even the spiritual master as Bhagavan because he's a representative of the god. And obviously, all the demigods are representative of the gods. With due respects, we do address them. But technically, if you look at the meaning of the word Bhagavan, it means the person who has the six qualities, unlimited qualities, in unlimitedness.
Okay, thank you, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Guruji, it is said that in other religions, it is said that we should not worship idols, but it is stated in Gita that so Narayan is means the form is means described here. So can you please explain over it, Guruji?
Right. Because see, the religion are on very different levels. Just like when we teach science to children, we teach them the principles of science are the same. That is to love the God. Religion means to love God. That is the only basic principle, underlying principle of religion, right? But when we teach to children the complex theories of science, we teach them in a much simpler way, right? So, depending upon the levels of intelligence one has, religions also varies depending upon the cultures, because not all cultures are on the same level of intelligence. There are many cultures which are still living like animals, and to them what is appropriate, that is taught. So it is very difficult for them to conceive the form of the Lord and all this. So for them it is said they only believe that God does not have a form, although in their scriptures there is a mention of the form of the Lord, wherein it is said that he sits on a golden throne. So who sits? He must have a form, right? But then the form of the Lord is not mentioned does not mean it negates, but they don't have a concept of that. Just like reincarnation is there, it is true, but there is no mention of reincarnation in other religions. That does not mean that they negate the concept of reincarnation. So their concepts are very, it is only, see, if you want 5 apples and you pray to the Lord that I want only 5 apples, Krishna will not give you 6 apples, because all you wanted was 5 apples, right? So similarly, if you only want to see the Brahman, the unmanifested, formless aspect of the God, that is Brahma Jyoti coming out of his body, you will only see the light. So Narada, when he visited Narayana, there was this Kanti was coming out of his body, and he could not see the form of this Lord. So Narada requested, please, take away this Kanti of your body and let me see the form of your body. So one who desires to see the form of the Lord, he is shown the form of the Lord. And if one is satisfied, if one only doesn't want to see the Lord, and if he's envious of the Lord, then he only wishes to see the Lord in the Brahma Jyoti form and the light coming out of the body. Right. It depends upon the relationship also. Some people only want Shanti, right? They want to get out of this material world. So they just want to stay in peace, Shanti, 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 right? So those people go in, take the settle in the Brahman sky of the spiritual world, and they don't land in the spiritual world. They don't interact with the Lord. They only stay there, floating in the air, in the Brahma Jyoti without the body. But then the tendency of the soul is to serve the Lord. So again, he has to fall back, take up the body, and then again he has to start. So it is that state is very temporary. So fulfilling state that Krishna also wants is a personal interaction. So there are various gradients of religion depending upon the civilization and the culture also. That ways to them that particular religion is given.
Thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I believe everybody is chanting. Everybody has started chanting. At least 1 or 8 times a day, one has to chant. The many rounds, the better. 16 is a standard chanting. Prabhupada has recommended. Prabhupada said that if you chant 16 rounds, then Krishna holds your hand like a mother. But then if you do not chant, your know-abouts are not known. According to your karma, you can land up anywhere with, anywhere on any plane of this material existence, in any yoni. So it is very, very scary situation actually. So knowing this, we have to take complete shelter of the Lord. That please take charge of my life. Please guide me in the right direction, and please give me association of devotees. Association of devotees like yours is also purifying to everyone, right? So stay in the association of devotees, stay connected to the temple, and read books. There are so many books written by Prabhupada, beautifully explaining different concepts. Bhagavad Gita is about what Krishna says. Bhagavatam is about what Krishna is. And there are higher texts like Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein the jewels of Prema Bhakti is just, all the confidential knowledge is just like given out. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation, you must be knowing, it must be told to you earlier that he is the Gaupya avatara of Krishna. It is, there are more than 108, more than 100 references in the Puranas that Krishna in the Kali Yuga will come in the Gaupya, in the very secretive form, not as Shyama Sundara, not bearing the skin color of Shyama, but he will be Gauravarna, in the yellowish white colored golden form he will come, and his astra is not Sudarshana. His astra will be Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the Karantalas and the Mridangas, and all the Devi Devatas will accompany him. It is very secretive and Gaupya incarnation of the Lord, and he has come to inaugurate the Sankirtana movement for the next 10,000 years, which is the golden Sandhya Kala. So, see, when we are in the bhakti, obviously there is accumulation of punya. There is no doubt, because once you chant Rama, it is equivalent to saying 1,000 names of Vishnu. It is explained by Lord Shiva that Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanami. That means once if you Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanami, that means once if you say Rama, it is 1,000 names of Vishnu, and once if you say Krishna, it is as if you are chanting 3 names of Rama. That means 3,000 names of Vishnu. So much potency it has. So when you are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is as if you are chanting 16,000 names of Vishnu once if you are chanting. So imagine how many times you are chanting, the more the spiritual sukriti is. So we should not be, obviously all the potency is there, all the punya is there, but we should not be looking at the punya, right? Because if we miss bhakti, then we land up in the higher planes of material existence, and then when we come back, actually we spend about 30,000 years in the equivalent to the human years. When we go, if supposingly we go to the Swargaloka and so forth, we take up the body and spend life, because here 1 year means there it is 365 days, or the opposite. So the time globe, the arrow of time goes very slowly over there. So here we feed the Pitrus once in a year, right? So, but there it reaches them daily. So 1 year over here is 1 day actually over there. So 1 year we spend here, it is equivalent to 1 day. So time is very, very, very slow as we go higher and higher and higher, right? So if we go to the higher planets, and then when we come back to Bhuloka, 30,000 years have already passed. So Harinama Sankirtan and this movement of Harinama Sankirtan is only for 10,000 years. So when we come back, nobody will be there to even guide you here. Nobody will be knowing the names of the lords, because the authority, the government and all will be, very strict in terms. As in the first 10,000 years is the golden time. It is said that every Nagaradi Gram, Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name will be sang. Hare Krishna Sankirtan will be sang everywhere for the first 10,000 years. But after the 10,000 year crosses, then the parinama of the Kali Yuga begins. Then slowly people will, degrade, and there will be nobody to even chant the names of the Lord, because the governments, and we do not know how authoritarian governments, totalitarian form of governments will be trying to control our lives. Maybe there will be a filter. As soon as one takes the name of Krishna, one is banned. One may not be able to use the currency, digital currency. There are artificial intelligence systems that when you speak something, our phone is actually gradually picking up that and trying to get a model of what you think and what you speak, right? So the technology is actually going in a very wrong direction. I can speak on it for hours as to how during the lockdown Sankirtana movement itself was stopped, isn't it? We were asked to wear the face mask. How can we chant? We were asked to stay at 6 foot length. How can we associate with the devotees and do Sankirtana? And we cannot even go out of the homes and do Sankirtana. So all these lockdowns and all that will slowly come. I don't know if it is scientific or not, but then all this is a symptom of Kali Yuga, that Sankirtana, the demons who want to stop the Sankirtana are becoming very powerful. We should watch out and quickly try to get out of this samsara, because when we return, there will be nobody to guide us. Hare Krishna. This was an analysis of the present moment, what I saw, what I perceived during the lockdown, that I try to tell you. This is my personal opinion. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions or queries, you're welcome to ask. Or yes, Aruna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So we have been taught that we should always listen from an authority bona fide guru, right?
Right.
So now we are taking classes and these classes will finish after 18 chapters.
Right.
After this, should we like go to the temple and continuous be in touch with someone or the other? How do we find a bona fide guru?
Right. Since in the temple everybody is following the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, there are spiritual masters who give take shelter, who give diksha also. Just like in the temple, Namanishta Prabhu has taken shelter of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. There are exalted devotees who have taken diksha from Srila Prabhupada himself, and they are guiding all the students likewise. So there are sincere souls who are empowered by Srila Prabhupada to take up this mission, and who would officially give diksha. Given that you are following 4 regulative principles and you're chanting 16 rounds daily, then you become qualified to take diksha. Right. And then be in touch, take up lessons, level 2 lesson, level 3 classes, visit the temple, have good contacts in the temple, and likewise over the time you will know the process of all this Harinama. Of course, Harinama Diksha nobody needs to take, but then officially if one wants to become a part of the Sampradaya and get the mercy, one can take Diksha and make his life a little more serious. That when we take, we need, see, Guru is there in Vani and Vapu. His Prabhupada's message is there in Vani. So reading the books, we can take instructions. But when a Guru is present and we can go approach him and ask his guidance on various subjects, that is also very helpful. So the temple will be able to guide you better on this.
So it is important that you have someone to guide you, or else is it okay if you are just reading the books and advancing in your own journey?
Right, that is also, but we need association of the devotees. Right? So we need to be in constant touch with the devotees. It is left to oneself. When one is ready, one can take. We know in India that it is said that one has to take diksha, but it is dependent upon our faith at what time we need. That comes from our heart. It is not that we have to take at certain point, but then it is our calling. It is our calling. Looking at the qualities of the spiritual masters, if we want to take his guidance, then one is drawn towards him and one takes the official diksha.
Okay. And Prabhuji, why 16 times? Like, because we are just, entering Krishna consciousness. We are probably doing it one time, or mostly we're not doing it also.
Right. Actually, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, 64 times is recommended in a day. But Prabhupada, in this age of Kali, everybody is busy, right? One has to maintain family and go to work and whatnot. So therefore, Prabhupada asked how many of are able to do 32. So nobody raised the hand, because that will take around 4 to 5 hours. So Prabhupada then finally fixed that 16 rounds at least you have to do, because there is a certain count also that if you do 16 rounds chanting, you will be finishing 100 crore names of the gods. There is a certain number also. In 50 years, you will be able to finish 100 crore names of the god, and as soon as you, and then there are so many benefits. So Prabhupada has at least given us 16 rounds one must chant, and slowly you are doing it. Slowly you will take time, and as soon as your ruchi expands, you get the taste of the chanting, then it becomes 16.
Okay.
It is very slowly and steady. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. It is already 9. So It is 2 hours now, almost. So if nobody has any doubts, shall we wind up the class, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. And
Hare
also you can, in the group, you can, I think you can contact Mataji and put up your questions there if you have any. So we'll be happy to answer your questions. So everybody, please unmute and chant with me 3 times Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Govinda.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you, Mataji. For
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.